TBI Uncovered, the platform that allows traumatic brain survivors, those with brain injuries, brain conditions, stroke survivors, the wheelchair community, caregivers, medical professionals, and anyone such as brain injuries, organizations as well, and anyone such as brain injuries to share their stories and provide tips and resources to those impacted. Today, I have a wonderful guest from the episode today. He's from Florida, and he's going to share a lot of information with us. And so I'm so excited to talk with him. So I'm going to bring him in now. So, hello, Dr. Chung.
Hi, Erica.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on today.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I'm so excited for this episode. So to begin, I would like to ask you to introduce yourself and tell us how you got started and what inspired you to be a upper cervical chiropractor and took an interest in brain injuries.
Oh, that's a good question. So I was in chiropractic school when I was in, let's see, it's about 2008, 2009, and I got into chiropractic a lot through kind of a sports type of focus. So I was interested in working with people from a performance standpoint and work with sports injuries and things like that.
Mhm.
Um, Along the way, I started to work with a lot more patients with chronic neurological issues like migraine headaches and dizziness and things of that nature. And I just found that style of practice to be a lot, uh, to be really rewarding. Like I really enjoyed the prospect of helping people that had exhausted a lot of options and finding ways to help improve their lives. And upper cervical chiropractic just gave me this really seamless way to be able to do that, because when people understand that how much influence that the neck has just in their overall life and way of being, then they can understand that fixing the neck can actually help alleviate a lot of problems that
Hmm.
really bother them. So it took me down this road towards discovering this upper cervical technique called NUCA.
Okay.
And I started to train with some NUCA doctors that were doing this technique. And I remember walking through my first NUCA office and seeing patients with like fibromyalgia getting better. I would see like a patient with Parkinson's disease where they get off the table and their tremors would be less.
Hmm.
And it just blew me away. And I was like, how do I learn how to do this? So
Yeah.
that's kind of what inspired me to kind of take this track of going into upper cervical chiropractic. And from there, somewhere along the lines, I started to take care of patients whose main complaint was post concussion syndrome, issues related to traumatic brain injury. And these patients were starting to get results as well. And that's what really inspired me to really take a deep dive into the world of traumatic brain injury and see what else I could do to help take care of these patients, even beyond using upper cervical care to help this class of people.
I love that. And I never knew that neck had so much to do with like the brain because the brain stems back here, isn't it?
Yeah,
Brain.
so
So I didn't know that.
yeah, it's when you
Wow.
look at how interconnected the body is, and then when we see that, things really close to the head
Oh,
have
yeah.
a really big input into what happens in the brain, and you can see that, like, all right, the neck is as close to the head as you can get without being a part of
Mhm.
it. So
Yeah.
there's going to be a lot of really important neurological structures that are going to interact there that really impact the brain as a whole.
Wow. I never, like I said, never knew any of that.
Yeah.
And so, can you describe a typical day with the patient when he's getting an appointment? Like, can you walk me through a normal day of an appointment with a patient?
Sure. So I have two types of appointments. I have new patient appointments where I'm basically, our job is to discover what's going on. And that's where we'll do x rays with the patient, we'll do an exam with them to kind of figure out what's going on with them neurologically. And
Hmm.
then we'll do a whole bunch of diagnostic testing to identify, what is their level of impairment. And we also set baselines so we know and we can measure, are our impairments getting better? And then on the days that I'm actually treating people on their follow ups, then we'll do either upper cervical adjustments with that patient. We might do brain exercises with them, including eye exercises, vestibular rehabilitation. We might do electrical or laser type stimulation with these patients. And that's kind of what we do on our treatment visits. So, we have a steady mix of seeing maybe a handful, two or three new patients per day, and then the rest of the patients are going to be treatment visits and follow-up visits about that.
Okay, that's pretty typical. Okay.
Yeah.
So I had to admit that I had to conduct research when I first saw your title. I'm like, so don't laugh, but I'm being honest. So initially, I thought that I thought upper cervical. I'm thinking like your cervix, like a female cervix.
Yeah,
What?
it's an unfortunate
But
coincidence.
when I did research, I'm like, okay, it's not what I thought it was. It's not cervical, not
Yeah.
cervix. But I did find out that it specializes in misalignment regarding the first two cervical bones in the back of your neck, which is like the brainstem part. So
Mhm.
like that's pretty cool and interesting. Because chiropractors, they generally treat like I thought it treated like back, back issues. I didn't know it was so in depth with like nervous systems and all those kind of things. So that was meant for me to find out. So I enjoyed learning about that. So
Yes.
can you
Yeah, it's interesting because chiropractors have historically excelled at
mhm.
treating back and spine issues because we're working directly with the spine in most cases. But the foundations of chiropractic were actually rooted in the nervous system. So people would actually like chiropractic at its earliest inception. They were working with patients with neurological issues or organic disorders early on. And then it kind of evolved into some chiropractors really wanting to focus in on back and spine issues, and then other chiropractors wanting to work with a diverse array of different disorders.
Okay, interesting. And so, can you also enlighten us about okay, I'm trying to say this word, vestibulo-ocular reflex. Did I say it right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So the vestibular ocular reflex is a part of the interaction of two systems. So when we say vestibular, that's the organ of your inner ear. So when we think of the inner ear, we think of hearing, but there's also a balance part of the inner ear. So whenever you move your head, there's these sensors that fire inside of your inner ear that tells
Hmm.
your brain, hey, you're turning to the right, or I'm
Okay.
turning to my left. And when we talk about ocular, that means the eyes. So the
Okay.
vestibular ocular reflex is a reflex that interacts whenever you move your head and the sensor of your ear fires. There's a nerve pathway that fires into your eyes that move your eyes in the opposite direction.
Hmm.
And this reflex is really important for being able to what we call gaze stabilization. And what
Okay.
that means is when we are walking around in the world, when we see an object just standing still, it should always be still.
Hmm.
So if we are moving, we still want the things that we are looking at to stay still. Otherwise, it's going to create this like home video camcorder effect. So if you've ever seen like a home video or a camcorder,
Yeah,
if
it's
the
kind
person
of
yeah, if the cameraman is bouncing all around, then it looks like the images are bouncing all around.
yeah.
And if you saw the world bouncing around like that, you would probably get motion sick really easy. You would probably get dizzy. You would probably not feel so good. So the
Hmm.
vestibulocular reflex actually helps to maintain a stable image. It keeps the things that you're looking at from moving around too much.
Wow. Wow. Who knew? Who knew?
Yeah.
Who knew?
And it's one of the most common things that breaks down whenever people have either an infection of their inner ear or
Yeah.
sometimes in traumatic brain injuries, that reflex, as it goes through the brain, might get a little bit disrupted. It might slow down, or it's just changed or altered in a way that's not adaptive for the patient.
Gotcha. And that's how it coordinates with the eye and the neck. Okay.
Yeah.
It makes sense. And so I noticed on your Instagram, I love your Instagram by the way.
Thank you.
Like you're welcome. So what movies can teach us about VOR?
Yes. So, yeah, that's that whole concept of like whenever if people are filming and they have a ability to keep the image stable, then that's what helps you see things on the movie and everything looks like it's very smooth, it's very seamless. It's like you're inside the image. But if you have someone that's not able to keep the image stable, then
Mhm.
that creates a problem for the viewer because they're seeing an image that's moving around, even though we know in reality it shouldn't be bouncing around like that. And that becomes problematic for people. So that's a really important piece of the picture is like the way that your neck interacts with the vestibular ocular system and the way that
Mhm.
the vestibular ocular system interacts with the neck. There's a lot of pathways that go backward and forward between those
Mhm.
systems. So your neck and your head really have to work together in order to make sure that your eyes see things really nice and stably. And also, if you're having pain in the neck, then that's also going to interfere with how well those receptors fire, and that can affect things like your clarity of your vision. Because it's common for people with neck issues where they see things a little bit blurry, and that causes them to have headaches. And that headache will then make their neck tight. So whenever you have one injury in one system, it kind of cycles through and causes injuries in multiple systems.
Okay. Hi, Nicole. And Nicole said hi, Dr. Chung. Hello, hello, hello. You said there's movies about VOR. Or did I read that wrong? Was it
Oh
movie?
yeah, I don't know if there are movies about VOR. I was just making a comparison between
Oh,
what you
gotcha.
see in a movie and how your VOR system works.
Well, I'm trying to think of a shaky movie that wasn't like so secure. I'm trying to think of some. Right, I have to mention you about that, but I'm sure there are movies about that aren't the best quality, but
Yeah.
can kind of coincide with what we're talking about. So,
Well, you think about like if you've seen the Blair Witch Project, where the Blair Witch Project has that really shaky view.
yeah,
Cloverfield is kind of more of a more recent example. Cloverfield, where like you have the guy watching, filming
yeah.
everything the camcorder with this monster movie. A
Mhm.
lot of people when they go to see these movies, they actually feel quite sick when they're watching it because of how shaky the film work is.
Um,
So that's like an
yeah.
example of what might be a TBI patient might feel like when they're walking around.
Hmm. It's very interesting. I also noticed that you did a neurovisual training drill.
Yes.
Can you talk about that? That looks so cool, by the way.
So there are lots of different ways for neurovisual training, and we actually use this as a mechanism for sports performance.
Hmm.
Because when people are playing sports, the ability to react towards visual cues is a really important skill. So if you
Hmm.
think about like if you're a baseball player, like the time that it takes for you to see a pitch coming out of a person's hand and for you to
Hmm.
react to it, you really have like zero point 0.3 seconds to make a decision on whether you're going to swing or not. So
Yeah.
that's really, really fast. So in order for us to be better at our sport, we have to have really good visual prowess, which means that we have to train that system work really well. We have to make sure that we train your eye-hand coordination so it's really fast. We even
Hmm.
train your visual memory. So we'll flash an image in front of someone and they have to memorize multiple parts of that image. So we flash an image in like 1 second and it said, tell me as many things about that image as you can.
Hmm.
And that way we get the person to get used to
Wow.
saying, all right, process this visual image in as little time as possible. And
Hmm.
that way, when you see things really well, then you could react to things well. And ideally, if you're seeing and processing really quickly, then you could actually move your body, move your hands quickly.
Hmm.
And that can make the difference between someone making a catch on a ground ball or a fly ball. It can make the difference between you recognizing if it's a fastball or a curveball. It can
Hmm.
make the difference between like seeing an open person in the basketball court versus, you know, being too late and that leading to a steal.
Yeah. Especially in football, like I said, all sports, really, because you got to play defense. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
wow, that's so fun in all sports. Wow. So, when you get new equipment when you get new equipment, like, does it come to you or your office, or like, so, okay, no. So, when the new equipment comes, and do you always get to test it out, or how does that process work? Or is there like a was a typical process for you testing it out? Are you always working to test it out, or is it other people?
We're always going to test the patient first to see what they are at currently. So when a person first comes in, we want to establish baselines for them. We want to know how fast are they, how
No,
fast
no,
do their eyes move.
I'm sorry. I mean, like when you get no equipment, like you tried out the visual, you tried the visual equipment. Do
Yeah.
you get to try it out first? Like you try it out before you, I'm saying, do you personally try it out all the time
Oh
before
yeah, yeah. I always try things out before I
okay,
bring it to patients. So we'll demo it even before I decide to buy it. So
okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
we always want to make sure that's going to be a good fit for the office first.
That makes sense. I understand that. Okay, I like that. Okay, so going over switching gears a little bit, what's your favorite part about being a brain injury rehabilitation fellow?
So the brain injury rehabilitation fellow just gives me the opportunity to um, connect with people so I can understand what's going on with them on a fundamental level. Because one of the things I think people feel is a disconnect is they feel like they have these symptoms and they feel like they're the only person that really understands what's going on in their experience. They don't feel like their friends understand what's going on with them. They don't feel like their spouses understand what's going on with them. And sometimes they don't feel like their doctor understands what's going on with them. So a big part of how I want to be able to talk to people is I want people to know that even though I don't have your injury, like I can understand what you're
Mhm.
coming from because I've seen patients that have similar issues to you. I've gone through all the study of the literature. I understand the mechanisms inside the brain for why you feel the way that you do. Because
Mhm.
when people feel like you understand them and their experience, then it
Mm,
just makes you feel better about
it
not
does.
only having the injury, but the process that it's going to take in order to overcome the injury itself.
I would agree. That's your favorite part is interacting with the patients.
Yeah, yeah, like more than anything else, like I'm not just someone that's, here to treat people. I'm here to like really give someone a place where they feel understood, because a lot of patients just don't feel like they have someone that understands their experience.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So I also noticed on your page that you talked about the cerebellum. Is that your favorite part of the brain, or is it just a post you had reshared of the other person's page?
It's definitely one of my favorite parts of the brain. So the
Okay.
cerebellum is really important for balance and motor control. So the
Yep.
ability to move and the ability to move correctly and learn movements is all driven by the cerebellum. And a lot of what we do in our practice is movement based. So yeah, that would be, one of my favorite parts of the brain.
Okay. I like that. Would you mind moving over to like the left a little bit because I have a logo and it's kind of like blocking your face. There you go. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. My logo's at the top right corner, so
Mm-hmm.
kind of blocks your face a little bit. Um, so I know there's more to you than just your occupations, which I think are wonderful. You have so much more going on in your life than just that. So you're also a husband and a father,
Mm-hmm.
correct? Right.
Yes.
So, and I saw your wife is battling lupus.
Yes.
So how she, I know several people that dealing as well. Several people like I could know several people that dealing with it as well. They had daily battles with it, and so I know it can be a very very trying disease. And so how's your wife currently doing? You don't mind me asking?
Oh, she's doing very well. Like she
Okay.
had we first found out about lupus when she had a stroke that sent her to the hospital. And in the process of figuring out what caused the stroke, the doctors found out that she had lupus, and the lupus antibodies were attacking the platelets in her blood and causing her to clot throughout her body. So thankfully, like the doctors, found it and they were able to save her life. And we're grateful for that every day. And
Okay.
she was able to recover from the stroke without any deficits, which is really,
Yeah.
quite lucky about that.
Mhm.
And now we're just going through some pretty intensive treatment to try to put lupus into remission. It's definitely a journey. It's hard.
Mhm.
She's on more medications than we ever thought she would be on, but she's doing well. She feels good. She's living her life as normally as we can, and doing our best to keep her safe because she's immune compromised now. But we're
Mhm.
doing everything we can to give her the best life possible while fighting off this disease.
Happy to know that. So how has it affected you personally as our caregiver? How has it affected you seeing her like that and like kind of having this how has that been for you on your end as well?
It definitely gives me a different experience being a
Mhm.
caregiver.
Mhm.
I'm really grateful for my family and my parents to be able to help us out with taking care of the kids, because having to fight a disease while being a mother of two young kids is challenging, and taking care of the household and taking care of the kids, like when you throw that onto the plate and realize how much stress impacts your success against these diseases. We really tried to take as much stress off of her so that she can focus on healing and being
Mhm.
better. So we try to do everything we can in order to support that. And it makes me a little bit more empathetic for people that are caregivers, for people that
Mhm.
are have chronic illnesses and are chronically
Mhm.
sick. And it also made me acutely aware of the fact that a lot of people, like, we have a good understanding of the medical things that we need to do in order to treat diseases,
Mhm.
but we don't have a great mechanism for helping the social and economic um, impact that these diseases have on people. And a
Mhm.
lot of people, what they need on top of great medical management is they need help with, how do I take care of my kids when I'm going to get infusions? How do I
Yeah.
pay for this drug that costs $36,000 per year? How
Yes.
do I manage the fact that, like, I have to take all these meds and all their different interactions? And how do I know if my doctor is giving me the right medication that is based on current evidence?
There's a
So there's
lot.
all these things that
Yeah.
aren't being answered. We rely on the medical system to just, hey, treat and cure this patient, But the truth of the matter is there's more to taking care of a patient with chronic illness than just treating the disease itself. It's how do you treat the person? How do you make sure that the person has all the things that they need psychologically and sociologically to
Yes, everybody's different.
to survive and thrive?
Yes, everybody's different. Everybody's body is affected differently by it. So
Mm-hmm.
some people can move along better with it, and some people have a hard time adjusting to it. So everyone's body is definitely different. Just like with brain injuries, they're
Mm-hmm.
all different. There's no cookie cutter situation. So it's definitely different for every person. So for those who don't know, what ways can someone support lupus in the cause?
Say what?
And what for those who don't know, how can someone support lupus or those who are
Um,
affected by it?
there are lupus associations. So we've been, in talks with the South Florida Lupus Association. So supporting some of these associations is an important thing. Anytime that there's places that are willing to do research on lupus. So there's a lupus research association that goes and supports research projects to identify treatments and fund things to try to cure lupus. So there's lots of ways to do that, but there's a good chance that if you are someone that's listening, like you probably know someone that has lupus, and a lot of these people, they just want friends and they want people to understand that sometimes I'm going to feel sick, and I'm going to feel sick for reasons that aren't really well understood, and that means like I might not be able to go out to the beach because I'm a little bit sensitive to the sun, or the activities that you do and the food that you eat is might not be able to do like your other friends. So some people with lupus do well on gluten-free diets. Other people with lupus, can't drink alcohol anymore. So these are all changes that affect social dynamics. So just having someone that understands what these patients go through is, and just being a friend to that is, I think, really beneficial.
I agree. I agree. And I thank you for being open about it and putting a spotlight on this terrible, 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 unpredictable autoimmune disease because, like I said, it affects more people than we know.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure people are family members and friends that deal with it as well. So I thank you for being open and being transparent about that. And so also, you're also a father.
Mm-hmm.
So two adorable, beautiful girls. Like that's so adorable.
Mm-hmm.
So adorable. What's your favorite part about being a father to your beautiful girls?
I don't know. I don't even know if I could pick a favorite thing. It's all really great. It's just watching them learn, and especially coming from a brain perspective, just seeing how their brains just slowly develop and figure things out over time has been one of the coolest things. And just having someone where you yell at them and you discipline them, and at the end of the day they still see you when you walk through the door and they still love the crap out of you, and
Yeah.
that's really cool and it's really awesome.
Yeah. So I also noticed that they did a commercial, right? They
A
did a
commercial.
commercial.
Oh
They did a
yeah,
commercial.
they do a little bit of child modeling and stuff, so they get jobs
They
here
were
and there.
supermodels. They were supermodels. What commercial was it for?
I don't even know.
You remember?
It's just
I
some,
remember being there for a stroller. I don't know. I don't know what it was. It was some kind of stroller company, I
yeah,
think.
it's some stroller company.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm not really sure exactly what it is. I think it's called Stocky Strollers. It's some upper class stroller that's like
Yeah.
$500 or something like
Oh,
that.
yeah. But they're so cute at it. So
Mhm.
I love it. They have some personality. So I think they're so adorable little girls. Very
Thank
adorable.
you. Thank you.
So another thing I love seeing that we have in common. We're both foodies. We're both foodies, and
Hmm.
you have a lot of pictures of foods on your Instagram profile, on your page. So, what's your favorite dish that you've eaten so far? Or can you pick a favorite? Do you have a favorite?
Oh gosh. Um, it's hard to really say. Like I just like the experience of eating food. Like I bias towards like a lot of the Asian foods, Thai and Vietnamese foods. So a healthy bowl of pho and ramen soups are probably up there.
Hmm. I know it was called. Was it called Pow, or was it called like a It started with a P. It's some kind of soup.
Pho,
Uh, Pho, yeah, pho. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, that's what it
yes,
is. Is that your
yeah,
favorite?
that I would say so. I mean,
Yeah.
it's definitely what my family makes most often. So
Okay. So when you travel around the world, trying different dishes, is that part of your blogger lifestyle, or is it just something you do for fun?
nah, I mean, it's just what I do for fun. It's just what I do to get away and to do things away from my academic career and pursuits.
Okay. Yeah, it's always nice to have a different outlet to deviate away from that's like outside of what you do because it can't always be about work. You know,
Right.
it can't always be about work. You gotta have some kind of fun and just I say live a little. So, and I've been into like trying new things. So I wouldn't mind trying a new dish, and I have tried a lot of new things lately as well. Like I touched the for my birthday. I touched a what's it called, the a stingray. Touched a stingray for my birthday.
Hmm.
It was so weird, but it was so cool at the same time. So it
Yeah,
was very
I've
exciting.
I've had stingray when I was in Malaysia before too, so it was
Really,
interesting to taste it too.
you had stingray.
Yeah,
Oh, oh my goodness! How did it taste?
like a flaky fish.
A flaky? You said a flaky fish?
Yeah, like flounder and something along those lines.
I never had flounder before. Never had it
Yeah.
before. Interesting. Um, so after eating all the delicious food, you got to exercise, right? You got to
Hmm.
exercise, and of course, exercise is good for the brain, as we know, or I know. Um, so you do CrossFit as well.
I do.
You
Yes.
do CrossFit. So why CrossFit over just regular exercise regularly? What's so big about CrossFit that you just love?
I think it's important for people that you really find an exercise that is enjoyable for you and like it's something that continues to be interesting for you. Like if you are good at exercise and you can do it in a way that is really repetitive, monotonous, and you still like going and looking forward to that, then that's awesome. For me, I like exercise when it's very dynamic. I like being able to do new things every day. I like the fact that I have no idea what's going to be on my workout, and then I just show up and I get something new, and it challenges me in a unique way. So it gives me a style of exercise that isn't boring. And more than anything else, exercise has to be something that you look forward to, because the more that you look forward to it, the more likely that you're just going to get it done. Because I'm a proponent of the idea that there's no such thing as a bad exercise. Like
Hmm.
the best exercise is just the one that you're going to do and show up for each and
Right.
every day. Whether that's weightlifting, whether that's running, whether that's doing gymnastics, whether it's just dancing, whether it's bike riding, like it has to be something where you're going to like really like looking forward. Like it's going to be one of the highlights of your day is getting to go do that. Because as long as exercise is like that, then you're not going to miss days. You're just going to go and do it because it's like part of your day where you take a shower and you get ready for bed. Like exercise starts to become part of that. And I think that there's nothing better for the health of the brain itself than someone that just gets regular, consistent exercise. And obviously, the more varied, the better. But even if it's not varied, at
Yeah.
least you're getting work done.
Yes, you got to be disciplined. You got to be disciplined
Mm-hmm.
to do it. Because I know you personally, like I'm telling myself, but it's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I exercise not like I should. I admit, not like I should. But like you said, it's a discipline. It's a mindset thing. It's a mindset. You got to put your mind to it. You got to do it. You gotta actively do it. So
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely a mindset thing, and you got to put it in your day like you put anything else in your day. You got to add it to your day like a normal thing you would do on like one of your daily habits or whatever.
For sure.
I'm working on doing that. So try my best to try my best. I'm trying, Dr. Jones. I'm trying.
Yeah. And that's where it come
Trying.
from is like in order to make it easier for you so you don't have to be disciplined is like it has to be fun and has to be
Yeah.
enjoyable. So like if it's more fun and enjoyable, then you don't need to rely on discipline as much in order to make that happen.
Okay, I have to try to think about that. How can I make it more fun? So
Hmm.
I want to do it. So that's very true. So last question, last but not certainly not least, we're gonna break this down. So what do you want people to know about upper cervical chiropractors first?
So upper cervical chiropractors are people that have an approach to chiropractic that is probably going to be a lot different than whatever you've experienced with chiropractic before, because a lot of people that hear the word chiropractor have a lot of assumptions about what chiropractic is. They think it's going to be this thing where you go into an office that's really busy and then you lie down on your back and then you hear a bunch of cracks and pops and then
Mhm.
you're on your way, and but you have to come back and you got to be seen and adjusted 3 times a week for weeks and months and sometimes years. And that's what like the general idea of what chiropractic is. And within an upper cervical chiropractic standpoint, chiropractic is something that is less so about needing to be adjusted all the time. It's about finding out what's going on in your neck, providing the very best correction to that area of the neck as possible so that you don't have to be adjusted all the time. Like, it's a merit badge for upper cervical chiropractors that they adjust someone and that's the only adjustment that they need the entire year. Because if they did that, that means that they did their job the most well that they could have. And the more that we can see people where we just adjust them as little as possible, that means there's more people that we can help because there's more people that need that style of chiropractic in their life. Because it's not about doing like a million adjustments, it's about finding the exact right adjustment that you need that's going to make a significant difference in your life and health. And it's also the idea that like you don't need a hard, forceful adjustment to get results. Most of the people that I see, like I'm barely touching them. And even though I'm barely touching them, like you could see a difference in the way that they're standing. You can see a difference in the way that their muscles feel. You can see a difference in just the way that they feel and the way that they are moving. And a lot of that is just driven by the idea that we just find the right way to put an input into the spine as opposed to needing to adjust the spine over and over again. And I think that's the biggest takeaway is that like, when people think about all the things that they don't like or they're a little bit apprehensive about when it comes to chiropractors, a lot of people are apprehensive about the idea that, you have to go and be seen over and over and over again. A lot of people are really apprehensive about the fact that they think they might get hurt going to a chiropractor. And the beautiful thing about upper cervical chiropractic is like we have solutions for those things and ways of addressing those fears where people can feel safe about the style of care that we're providing them.
Okay. So, is there already an exercise a person can do? Like, is rubbing your neck a good exercise to do daily, or is
Yeah.
it okay?
I usually prescribe exercises for people on a case by case basis, but some common exercises I prescribe for most people is called the cranial cervical flexion exercise, where they're learning how to tuck their chin. I recommend anterior forward head posture exercises where they put their back against the wall and lift their arms up over their head and training their shoulders to become retracted. So those are two exercises I recommend for most patients. But yeah, most other exercises I try to make it individualized towards the patient that I'm seeing.
Okay. So, what do you want to say about brain injuries?
So brain injuries are something that there's no such thing as a minor brain injury. Any brain injury that people have, it's significant because that can have the potential to have consequences throughout that person's life.
Absolutely.
But brain injuries can get better. A lot of people that get brain injuries, they feel a little bit hopeless about it. They feel like there's no route towards getting better. And even though you might not be able to have the same brain that you had before the injury, it doesn't mean that you can't live a pretty good, healthy, normal life even when you have brain injury.
Thank you for saying that. Like, just thank you for saying that. Because that really hits home, like, for a lot of stuff. So, thank you for saying that. And so, what about lupus? What do you have to say about lupus?
Well, I'm still on this lupus journey as an early thing, but one of the things that I learned is like don't take random joint pains for granted. So if you have weird symptoms, like get it checked out by a doctor, get a little bit of blood work done because sometimes some of these joint pains aren't just pain in the actual joint themselves, but they could be the signs of an autoimmune disease. And there's a lot more autoimmune disease out there than people realize. So getting it figured out and getting it treated early will prevent hopefully catastrophic things like what happened to my wife. So
Yeah.
it's definitely a part of how I evaluate people, and I take like autoimmune disease into consideration when I'm seeing people now.
Oh, man. Yes. Thank you for saying that. And thank you so much for taking the time out to interview with me. Can you tell us how to follow you? People can follow you on Instagram and what other information you want to share?
Yeah, so my Instagram page, my personal one is you can find me at Dr. Jonathan Chung. And my business page, you can follow me at Keystone Neuro.
Okay.
So you can see me there. And then my practice is called Keystone Chiropractic and Neuroplasticity. If you ever want to learn more about my office, we put a lot of content on our blog, and I do complimentary consultations for people, whether digitally. So if you're coming from a distance and interested in visiting our office from another state, or if you're local to Florida and you want to come check out what we're doing in our office, then feel free to reach out.
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you for your thank you for your transparency and sharing your life story for her. And what you go through as a caregiver for her for dealing with lupus. Thank you what you said about brain injuries, things like that, as well as I'm gonna get it right.
Mhm.
Upper cervical chiropractor is what they do. So thank you
Yes.
for sharing all the information. And again, thank you for taking time out for interview with me. It's been so fun, interesting, and so much learning. So much learning. With the eye coordination, all that kind of stuff. I'm gonna rush this interview. So thank you so much for taking the time out your day and interviewing me. So I
Thank
think
you,
you all
Erica.
for tuning in for watching season 2 of TV Uncovered. So I'll be back again next Friday. So enjoy your all's day. Enjoy the weekend. Have a good weekend, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Erica.
Thank you. Dr. Khan.